Today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in This War of Mine, the board game. I haven't played the video game, just the board game, so this is my favorite mechanism in the board game itself. And I'm going to talk about exploration, both in the way that the game defines exploration and how I perceive exploration in the game, because I think it's beyond just the use of the word exploration in the game. And really there are two facets to this. For a lot of the game, you're going to be spending your time in this dilapidated house. And when you set up the game, you put these cards spread throughout the house in different rooms. There's rubble cards, there's furniture cards, there's some others that I'm forgetting. I think there's heap. Just a bunch of different cards that you put in this house face down. You don't know what they are, you just know that this is some type of rubble. You've kind of maybe looked around the house a little bit and seen what's there. There's locked doors, I think there's gated doors, barred entrances, things like that. So there's all these places in the house that you can explore. And normally in a game like this, I would expect to have seen everything in this house by the end of the game, but that's not the case here. And I found that really interesting, that by the end of the game, we had barely touched upon the house. Like we had tried to do stuff, but in the house, you're not only exploring, but you're also building stuff in the house. So it's really up to you to see how far you want to go in exploring this area, even though it's your main central area. Like you're in the house, you're there the whole time. So I really like this element that there's this big house with cards placed over the rooms that block you from other areas, or that give you good stuff when you dig through them or explore them. I really like that. The other aspect of exploration, this is how the game defines exploration, is when you actually leave the house and go into the nearby city or village. And this is where it's almost too many mechanisms to describe how it works, but I'll touch upon a few of the things that I can remember and that I really liked. The first part is that there are always 3 locations that you can explore. These are random cards that are placed out in a random order, and distance matters. So there's a location that's pretty close to you, there's a location that's kind of far, and a location that's really far away. And the reason that matters is that you kind of have limited time as to how long you can be out exploring before you have to get back to the house at night, or before you should get back to the house. And the game conveys this sense of time by saying, okay, if you go to the closest location, you have, I think it's 12 exploration cards that you can use while doing stuff at that location. If you go a little bit further, you have fewer cards. I think it's like 10 or 8, and then it's maybe 8 or 6 in the final location. So I like how they take this concept of time and make an abstract element of it, but it's very concrete in the game. You look at these locations and you say, okay, maybe I really want to go to the hospital, which just happens to be the closest one. It's random. Maybe I want to go to the hospital, but I also kind of need to go to the jail. Maybe there's something at this jail that intrigues me that my group really needs right now. But it's farther away, so we're going to have fewer exploration cards. So I really like that choice. And I really like what those exploration cards become. And this is the area where I'm not going to be able to fully describe it, because there's a lot of different things that you can do at these different locations, but they all tap into this exploration deck. They all some might say, okay, like if you want to explore this house, or this hospital, I mentioned the hospital, it's going to take you time, and you'll use the exploration deck that you've created, this temporary 12-card deck. You'll use those cards to determine how much time you can spend exploring the hospital. You can also just look at those cards. So you could say, okay, I just want to look at the top 2 exploration cards and do what those cards say. And they might have you refer to the storybook. They might just give you some stuff. They might give you a challenge where you have to do a skill test to get something on that card. So there's a lot of flexibility. The game really opens up in this exploration element. But I like, and I'll focus on that core element of how close the locations are and how they tie into the size of the temporary exploration deck that you create. So I really like these 2 explorative choices here. The idea of leaving the house and going out and having your decision space really branch wide open, versus staying in the house and seeing your limitations, seeing what's there, but still having this element of exploration and discovery as you flip over these cards and as you decide which card to flip over. Like, do I go upstairs and try to unlock this door and then get what's behind the door and then maybe what's after that door? Or do I just dig through this pile of rubble that I know is right there? Or maybe I fix up this piece of furniture that's laying off to the side. I really like that juxtaposition between the two. If you have a favorite mechanism in this War of Mine, if you've played it, there's a ton of stuff, so I'm sure you'll have something that's different than what I've mentioned. I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Or if you have a favorite element of exploration in a thematic board game that you'd like to talk about, I'd love to hear about that as well. Thanks.